Here in the Economic War Room, we're looking at the economic impact of these Chinese coronavirus and all of the implications as it's rippling through our society with the staying at home and social distancing and all of that. And it really is having personal impact. And we're seeing that in the Twitter feed. And I've got one here that came in from Kathy, who says there are a lot of plans being put in place to help employed persons affected by the COVID-19 virus. As an independent contractor, I'm wondering if anyone has a plan for bailing out 1099 individuals. That's an important question. About 1 in 10 people depend on 1099 income as their primary source of income. So it's got a huge impact. This is something we'll make sure and bring up with our contacts who are working on any bailout plans. Now keep in mind that they're talking about possibly sending checks to households, which you'd be covered in that case, or helping suppliers and contractors who help large businesses. So it's an important question. It's something the government needs to be aware of. And I do believe that there are plans and are considerations to helping you out as well as everybody else. But thanks for asking. Here, Jay asked the question, I really would like to know what we can spend our money on right now that would help our economy stay moving. An economic freeze is dangerous, and with everyone at home, it's a real risk. How can we help? That's a great part of the Blaze listeners. We're looking to help other people. Well, Jay, here's my answer. A couple of things you can do. One is you can buy gift cards, particularly for local businesses. Buy them now. Put the money down now. You can buy them electronically, usually over the internet, or you could stop by, and if they're open and they're still allowing, like restaurants allowing you to get takeout food, buy those gift cards and give them to people who need them. That'll bring cash in almost immediately to that business, and it will also help other families. So that's a good suggestion. You're not going to be able to go out shopping. Nordstrom's is closing stores, and Target has limited hours and so forth. There's not a lot that you can do but buying gift cards, and then look at the stock market and see if there's places where you can invest. I really firmly believe that American entrepreneurship and innovation, we're going to get through this. Science is going to help defeat this virus. And when we come back, we're going to come back in a big way. I believe in America, our liberties, and our free enterprise system. So you can help by believing in the economy. Let's look at another one. Here's from Perrin Gerber. Is a bank bail-in coming? A bank bail-in. That's not a typo. It's not a bailout, it's a bail-in. And let me describe what that is. Under the law, when the FDIC goes in and looks at a bank and says this bank's in trouble, there are provisions where they can use depositor funds to bail out the bank. It's called a bail-in because the money's already there. It's already in the bank. Now, that means that when you put money on deposit at a bank, it actually isn't your money any longer. It belongs to the bank, and they have an IOU. They owe you. Now, I've got two responses. One is, actually, the banking system is in pretty good shape now. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Right now, if you put a deposit there, the banks are well supported, they're well funded, and I think the system looks pretty good. But there may come a crisis down the road that you need to consider this, because that is a part of the law. The money belongs to the bank and they owe you. So that's something that you need to think about as we go forward. But right now, I don't think it's a panic, and I would not rush to the bank and pull money out. Frankly, I think the banking system is really sound, and it's an important part of dealing with this crisis. We're not seeing a financial crisis at this moment. What we're seeing is a health crisis that's going to have an economic impact. Let's look at another one. Alexander, do I need to worry about my IRA account held with a large brokerage firm? It is out of the market and all in cash now. Actually, you're sitting pretty, Alexander. If you're all in cash, then you've got the whole market to look at and buying opportunities. You can look at stocks that are down 30, 40, 50% from where they were. So if I were you, I would talk to my advisor and see if there's something you might be looking at. My old boss, John Templeton, was one of the greatest money managers of all time. And he taught us, he drilled into our heads, when you're in a bull market, always know where the exits are. He said, every bull market is followed by a bear market. But then he said, every bear market is followed by a bull market. And that's absolutely the truth. So what that means is, if we're in a bear market, and we are, you ought to be looking for opportunities. Now, I know not many people are in your situation where they're all cash. The question is, would you want to sell now again, talk to your advisor. It depends on the stock, depends on your circumstances. But if you have 5 years or longer to leave your investments in place, it's true, every bear market's followed by a bull market. It's an opportunity for you to hold on and hang in there. Remember, those who held on and hung in there in the 2008 financial crisis, even as they watched the Dow drop from 12,000 to 6,500, well, they're way ahead. Even after the recent declines, over the long term, the stock market has proven to be a good place to invest for investors. So I wouldn't necessarily be selling out now, but if you got a lot of cash, you could be looking for bargains. I don't know where it's going to go. I can't give you investment advice, but I think you're, Alexander, in a pretty good situation. If you got a lot of cash, it's in a money market at your brokerage firm. I believe it's very safe there, and I believe that it'll give you the opportunity to buy stocks readily whenever you find them to be opportune. Okay, here's another one from Mark. Should I try to sell my house while prices are still up? Well, Mark, you got to understand, in New York, there were like 49 open houses in one area last weekend, and 0 people showed up. Do you really want to invite a lot of people into your home right now to look over your house? This is something you might think about after we see the health crisis kind of abate a little. You want to see things improve and people getting out before you put your house on the market. And I'll tell you, housing right now, depending on where you live, is very dear. That means that there is a shortage in a lot of places. And it depends on locally where you live. And you got to talk to a realtor, get the best advice you can. But I wouldn't rush to put my house on the market at this exact moment. I don't think you'll get a lot of interested lookers looking at your house. We got another question from a Blaze viewer. It says, if the government does hand out the $1,000 per person, if you can afford it, what's the best way to invest the money back into our economy to help defer a recession or depression? I'm going to answer that with a piece of advice learned from Mr. Rogers. You know Fred Rogers? Here's a quote from his book. It says, when he was a boy, he was frightened by some news he had heard. His mother would say, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. So why not look for the helpers when you're making an investment? The people that are making a real difference, the companies that are making a real difference. And maybe favor small business over big business. The government's aware of the big business problems, but it's up to you and me to help the small business. So maybe invest there, spend there, and so forth. But don't forget, take care of your family first, any needs that you might have. And if you want to go beyond that, look for the helpers. This is Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room.